As South Africa marks National Child Protection Week, the spotlight is on the urgent need to safeguard the country's children, not just in homes and schools, but within cultural and religious spaces as well. The CRL Rights Commission has raised the alarm over ongoing gaps in child safety and calls for stricter enforcement of existing laws. Are the safeguards we have in place enough? And who is being held accountable when faith and tradition fail our children? We bring in Thoko Mkhwanazi-Xaluva, the CRL Rights Commission chairperson. Good morning and thanks again for your time. Tell us more about the CRL's biggest concerns when it comes to what you've identified as child protection gaps in religious and cultural settings.
We have looked at how we can protect the religious and cultural communities, because our mandate is to protect and promote the rights of cultural, religious and linguistic communities. So we've looked at where are the gaps in the system. And with all the experiences we've had in the past and looking at what is happening currently, the issue around people who have access to children from a cultural and religious perspective, we felt had not been dealt with accordingly. For instance, to give you examples, when religious leaders have access to children, they are not vetted. They run Sunday schools, they run youth ministry, they run children's ministry, but they're excluded from being vetted whether they are good enough to have access to children. There's the issue of traditional healers as well. They are not vetted, but they have access to children. There's the issue of onometlo, people who do virginity testing. They are not vetted, they have access to children. And we've said in this particular area of culture and religion, we need to tighten things up a bit. Even in initiation schools, we dare say people have access to children, because you can go to initiation school when you're 16, according to the Constitution, you're still a child. And other groups take them even younger. Who is vetting them to see if a traditional surgeon and a traditional nurse qualify to be having access to children?
So what do you suggest then, Chair, sorry to come in there, what are you suggesting them then in terms of putting that safeguard in place?
We are saying we should know who's where doing what to start with. You can't vet people you don't know. If you're going to start a church, for instance, there must be a system that says, go and register there, and then you'll be vetted there, and then you'll be seen whether you're fit or not fit to be running a church. So that's the system we want to use. We want to say these people are similar to teachers, they are similar to social workers and all the other people.
I really am interested in how you foresee this practically becoming a reality. I mean, we know, especially in evangelical churches, you know, pastors are a law unto themselves. They believe they have a calling, that they have a spiritual connection to God, and that gives them the authority to do what they do or to create churches and so on. How do you manage creating a practical framework in a context where people refuse to be subjected to such frameworks?
You've really said something that I was going to move on to. You can't refuse to be part of a nation that says we will protect our children. And it's not going to be a choice anymore. We are saying there must be legislation that will say this is how you register. If you have a calling, teachers have a calling, doctors have a calling, everyone has a calling. But your calling doesn't exclude you from our quest to protect children and vulnerable communities. So they have to be part of this big system of this nation where we're aiming to protect our children. Of course, there must be legislation that backs this up.
You talked earlier about your concerns around virginity testing. We spoke about the initiation schools and the like. How can you reconcile that position with the cultural significance of practices like this against the clear, as you also mentioned, the clear constitutional safeguards or legal requirements regarding really important things like consent, age, and the dignity of children? And again, we, in our minds, we think of, important historical cultural events like the Reed Dance.
You see, the Constitution says you have a right to your cultural and religious beliefs, but those should be in line with the Bill of Rights. So we're saying the Constitution is more important than any cultural belief we could be having, and that the protections that we get from the Constitution, like human dignity, etc., should then trump over all the other beliefs that we have. Of course, this is not like you're going to ban this and ban that. No one is banning anything. We're just saying people must comply with the law. And the law is very clear on certain issues. The Children's Act goes even further for all of us, explaining how these things should happen, who should have access. So the cultural beliefs are secured in terms of the CRL Rights Commission, in terms of the Constitution itself. But those cultural beliefs should be compliant with the Constitution. And once the Children's Act says you will only do virginity testing on children who are above 16, until and unless that is amended, that part of the Act must be respected. People know that if they need to amend something, they must then make submissions through to Parliament. And we've said if they need to make amendments, we're willing to help them do that, but they then need to argue why a 5-year-old must be tested for virginity.
Thoko Mkhwanazi-Xaluva is the CRL Rights Commission chairperson. Thank you for talking to us this